I used to hate it when I go to the Little League practice and the coaches say, all right, we're going to work on our fundamentals. But, it made us better players. And today I want to talk about some of the fundamentals of guitar around the major scale. What does that have to do with anything? Well, it has a lot to do with everything, and everything's connected. If you start making these connections, it can start making you a better player when it comes to improvising your own melodies or writing your own songs or chord progressions. If you know a little bit about how everything fits together on a fundamental level. So let's start with the major scale. If you never learned it, there's a couple of ways you can do it. Let's just start with C major. You can start here on the 3rd fret with your 2nd finger on the 5th string. And then you got to switch, move up here. And there's one way to do it, but a really good place to solo from is if you start on this C up here on the 8th fret on the 6th string. And so you got a lot of melody building in there. We spend so much time as guitarists with the pentatonic scale because it's easy. There's 5 notes in it. Well, there's more, 2 more in the major scale, but there's a lot more room for color, a lot more room for harmony in there. So you can solo out of this. Just figure out what key you're in. And the cool thing, because it's the major scale, you have all the notes you need for what chord you're playing on. With the pentatonic scale, there are some notes and some progressions where the chords in the notes in the pentatonic scale are not in every chord. Well, in your major scale, you can make that work if you know what notes are in the chord you're playing. They're probably going to be in the major scale if it's a diatonic progression. Now, what does that mean? That's music theory jargon. What does that mean? It means that you walk up the major scale and you harmonize that based on all the notes that are in that key. And you can do that in a couple of ways. So if you just did triads, then you would have a C, you would have a G, and you would have an E. So it would look like that. But if you can actually do 4 notes to make a 7th chord, and if you do that and go all the way, well, you don't have a triad anymore, you have a tetrad, that's 4 notes. And so you get the major 7th, really cool sound. So you stack, you go C, C, G, there's a B and an E on top. So you can play that, and all those notes are in the key of C. And you stack them like that. That's called harmonizing it. And so there's your 1 chord is a C major 7, and then you move up to your 2 chord. It's a D minor 7, and you just move that up, E minor 7. Then it's a major 7 again, F major 7, and then you have a G7. You have an A minor 7, and then you have that B. Have diminished there, and then you're back to your C major 7. So one way to really get good at chords, this works especially for jazz, but it can also work in blues, and just knowing how things fit together. You don't have to do the 7th chords, but you can, and they have a kind of a cool vibe. So I'm going to put links to some backing tracks where you can play these chords along in rhythm, in time, and you can work on those chords and start seeing how it all fits together. And you can download the PDF in the link below as well, or you can just take screenshots from this video. But you just work your way up the notes of the major scale, and you have harmony built in these 7th chords. It's really a fun thing to do. Now, the cool thing about those 7th chords is if you want to learn arpeggios and how to solo out of that, every one of the arpeggios is contained in that C major scale. And so in that one position, you can make all the arpeggios of every chord in that diatonic progression there. And diatonic means there's no accidentals. It means, it's a key of C. There's nothing sharp or flat. No sharps or flats anywhere. That's what makes it diatonic, is that everything fits in that key. If you had a sharp or a flat, there are no sharps or flats in C. If you had a sharp or a flat, it wouldn't be diatonic anymore. So all of your diatonic arpeggios are in that major scale. All the notes are right there. And so you can stay in one position and learn how these notes fit together. Think about how you can make that chord with the notes that are already under your fingers, and that's really going to unlock the fretboard for you. Start with C and just start with 3 chords. If you want to get into jazz, then get into the 2-5-1 progression. You'd start on that D minor 7. You go to G7, and then you go to your C major 7. It resolves to that. And so you figure out which notes are in which chord. If you do your D minor 7, you got your D, you got your F, A, and a C. So you find those notes here, and you suddenly made your arpeggio. And so you can get a 2-5-1 backing track, which I'll put in the description below, and you can start practicing those. Now, you can learn shapes. You can absolutely learn shapes. Like a cool one is to go take your C chord, move it up to the 5th fret. That's a D minor 7 arpeggio, but I'm just making a C chord, but I'm making an arpeggio out of it. That's a shape. Yes, you can learn by shapes, but for the long run, you want to know where the notes are. You want to know the intervals and how they fit together, the space between them. And in the minor 7th chord, you've got your root, you've got a minor 3rd from D to F, you've got a 5th with the A, and then you've got the minor 7th with the C. And so you learn how those intervals sound and how they fit together. It's going to help you in the long run. Now, no, you're not going to be jamming really wild runs really fast, but you're anchoring your knowledge on the fretboard with some actual frets, and it's going to make a big difference in your ability to not get lost, to know where you are, and to start leading into things. You're going to start to notice, when it comes time for you to switch to the next arpeggio, the next chord, the next set of notes, you're going to know where that note is that you want to land. That's your target. And so you can anticipate that, and you can slide into it. It's a really cool effect in jazz and blues to slide into something. So like if you want to do an A minor arpeggio, so you just slide into that first note. It has a really nice effect. You can add some chromaticism to that. See the half steps there, add some tension and add some color to your playing. So if you know those notes, then it can make a big difference. So I'm going to put a link to these arpeggios. A really good exercise is to just play along with a backing track that changes those chords, and you play the arpeggios that go with it. And you're going to start to learn some shapes, and you can translate that into another key. But think to yourself, what notes are you playing? Play through it that way. Think to yourself, what intervals are you playing? 1, minor 3rd, 5th, minor 7th. Think to yourself as you're playing through those. There are lots of great lessons on these topics. I'm going to put a link to one I'm going through right now. I've subscribed as a patron on Patreon for Jens Larson for jazz, and just a brilliant jazz guitarist, and has a great knack for making videos and taking complex things and breaking them down so you can understand. And so I got this idea for the arpeggios from him. So I'll put a link to that video below and you can check him out. So thanks for watching. Have fun. Keep playing.